Pickups are supposed to be tough, reliable workhorses, but some American trucks were nightmares on wheels, unstable, unsafe, and occasionally lethal. Automakers quietly erased them from history because nobody wanted to admit they were disasters. These are the 10 most banned American pickups. Trucks so bad they should have stayed in the factory yard.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 10. The Ford Highboy. A nickname given by enthusiasts, not Ford, refers to 1967 to 1977.5 F250 4x4s built with a taller front suspension, divorced transfer case, factory lift-like stance, higher bed-to-frame clearance. These trucks were incredibly capable off-road. They stood taller than their GM and Dodge counterparts and could swallow rugged terrain like a military transport. But that tall stance came with a price, a very high center of gravity, even before you bolted anything onto it. When Ford marketed the Camper Special Package, they created a problem without realizing it. The Camper Special Package was designed for slide-in campers, massive aluminum mini-houses of the 1970s that weighed between 1,500 to 2,200 pounds. Most of that weight sitting above the bed rails, with water tanks, propane bottles, and gear all mounted high. On a normal height truck, this was acceptable. On a highboy, it was a balancing act on wheels. Owners joked the setup felt like a refrigerator strapped to a ladder. Engineers later admitted that the combination created extreme top heaviness, slow, unpredictable weight transfer, dangerously poor emergency handling. Ford never reinforced the frame or suspension specifically for high-mounted campers. The setup was allowed, but barely safe at the engineering limits. By the mid-1970s, national parks began noticing a disturbing pattern. A disproportionate number of rollover incidents involved lifted, camper-equipped Ford F250 4x4s. Most accidents occurred in Rocky Mountain National Park, Yosemite, Yellowstone, Great Smoky Mountains. Common causes included narrow mountain switchbacks, soft shoulders, sudden wind gusts, high center of gravity amplified by the camper, drivers unfamiliar with weight transfer dynamics. Some rollovers were catastrophic, with campers collapsing onto occupants. A few incidents involved fatalities, some involving families on vacation. Rangers began reporting the same phrase, another highboy camper rollover. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a trend. By 1978, liability fears grew. Several campgrounds, especially those with sloped access roads, quietly issued informal restrictions. No tall slide-in campers, no lifted trucks with mounted campers, and eventually, specifically, no Ford highboy trucks with campers. Some national park rangers went further, turning away highboys at entrance checkpoints if they were carrying large slide-ins. The biggest issue? Even at slow speeds, the trucks leaned aggressively. Side-to-side sway made them seem constantly on the edge of tipping. Private campgrounds soon joined in, fearing lawsuits. The Highboy Camper Special was effectively blacklisted from the very places it was designed to visit. Then came the final blow. Insurance companies reviewed accident statistics and realized slide-in campers were already risky. Highboys with campers were double the rollover rate of similar trucks. Claims were expensive because campers destroyed themselves and the truck. So in 1978 to 1980, several regional insurers issued notices. No coverage for slide-in camper use on Ford F250 4x4 highboy models. Some carriers refused new policies entirely unless the owner signed a waiver acknowledging rollover risk. Once insurance dried up, resale values crashed for camper-equipped highboys. Dodge and GM also sold camper-capable trucks, but they were lower, wider, less prone to sway, and less prone to catastrophic tip-overs. The Highboy's factory tall suspension, while great off-road, made it a terrible platform for high-mounted loads. Ford did not correct the issue until the 1977.5 to 1979 redesign, when the F250 was lowered and given a modern transmission setup. But the damage was done. The 1978 Highboy Camper Special had already earned a reputation as the truck that campgrounds banned for being too dangerous to camp with. Today, Highboys are prized classics, but even collectors and restorers acknowledge you never mount a big 1970s slide-in camper on them. The combination is historically interesting, but mechanically unsafe. Off-roaders love them, but RV enthusiasts avoid them. In vintage camping forums, the old warnings still circulate like folklore. Don't put a camper on a Highboy unless you want to flip it. The 1978 Ford F250 Highboy Camper Special stands as a strange paradox, a truck marketed for adventure, banned from the very adventures it promised. It proved that engineering isn't just about power or toughness, it's about physics, and physics always wins. A tall, narrow truck plus a heavy, high-mounted camper was a disaster waiting to happen, and by the late 1970s, campgrounds, insurers, and national parks had all seen enough. Number 9. The 1958 Chevrolet Task Force Series 3200, a pickup with solid bones, but one catastrophic weakness: front-end steering linkage failures that made it unpredictable, unstable, and in some cases, deadly. Let's break down how a workhorse turned into a workplace liability. The late 1950s were a transformative period for American light trucks. Ford was refining modern twin I-beam concepts. Dodge was shifting toward stronger front axles. Chevrolet was modernizing the Task Force series with improved styling and more car-like comfort. But comfort came at a price. Chevy's light-duty trucks increasingly borrowed design ideas from passenger cars: lighter components, smoother steering, and more flexible linkages. The 1958 Task Force 3200 half-ton long bed pickup was meant to serve small businesses, contractors, and local delivery fleets. It was stylish, affordable, and, on paper, durable. What no one expected was that its steering system, an evolution of earlier designs, would become its downfall. The 1958 3200 used a center-link steering system involving ball joints, pitman arm, idler arm, tie rods, a stamped steel linkage assembly, and a steering gear that relied heavily on bushing integrity. This system worked fine on smooth local roads, but put this truck into commercial duty and weaknesses appeared quickly. Common failure modes included rapid wear of idler arm bushings, tie rod end separation under repeated shock, loose pitman arm splines on high-mileage trucks, center-link slop that made steering vague and delayed, grease fittings inaccessible leading to neglected lubrication. Within 15,000 to 25,000 miles, fleet mechanics were reporting severe degradation, excessive steering play, inconsistent wheel alignment, trucks drifting left or right under braking, sudden jerks at highway speeds, wobble when loaded with cargo, and, in the worst cases, full-on front-end failure at 50+ miles per hour. Between 1958 and 1961, numerous documented fleet incidents involved the 3200 suddenly losing steering control. Typical scenarios included delivery trucks drifting into oncoming traffic, drivers losing control during lane changes, trucks unexpectedly pulling hard left or right when hitting bumps, steering wheel spinning freely with no road response, vehicles rolling into ditches or off the shoulder. One large Midwest delivery company recorded 11 separate steering failures in a fleet of only 60 trucks. A lumberyard fleet in Oregon reported 3 trucks veering off a highway during downhill runs, all traced back to worn steering bushings and linkage separation. Chemical distributors, postal contractors, and farm supply companies all filed similar internal reports. Fleet managers began referring to the truck as the 3200 roulette reel, because you didn't know when the steering would give out. By late 1959, the pattern was undeniable. Large companies began quietly issuing internal memos. No more 3200 pickups. Industrial operators and delivery fleets adopted policy bans due to rising insurance premiums, repeated mechanical failures, legal liability for roadway accidents, unreliable front-end behavior under loads, excessive downtime for repairs. Among organizations that reportedly banned or discontinued use of the 3200, regional food distributors, timber and agricultural fleets, fuel delivery support units, rental truck companies, corporate service fleets tied to rail and utility companies. Word spread quickly within industrial circles. Even Chevrolet's own fleet sales department began hearing complaints about the dangerous front-end geometry. The core issue was simple engineering mismatch. Chevrolet designed a light-duty recreational truck, but fleets used it like a commercial-grade workhorse. But the 3200's front-end components were too lightly built, too dependent on regular lubrication, too sensitive to weight distribution, too weak for rough roads or constant loading. It was a truck designed to haul hay bales and groceries, not run 12-hour shifts on industrial routes. When put under real-world commercial stresses, the trucks degraded rapidly, sometimes catastrophically. Chevrolet never issued a recall, never admitted fault, never warned fleets directly. Instead, Chevy implemented incremental engineering fixes in the 1960 CK redesign: stronger steering geometry, improved idler arm design, better ball joint materials, larger tie rods, and a modern front suspension that replaced the old Task Force-era linkage system. It was essentially an unspoken admission that the 1958 system wasn't up to the job. But for the 1958 3200, the reputation was already ruined. Today, the 1958 Task Force trucks are collector favorites, beautiful, chrome-heavy, and nostalgic. But restorers know a secret. You must rebuild the entire front end if you want it to drive straight. Classic truck forums still warn newcomers: replace every steering component before you trust it above 40 miles per hour. The 3200's beauty hides a flaw that cost companies money, caused frightening accidents, and led to one of the quietest mass fleet bans in automotive history. The 1958 Chevrolet Task Force 3200 is a classic case of what happens when a truck's engineering doesn't match the reality of its use. It was stylish, it was affordable, it was beloved by small-town owners. But under the pressure of commercial duty, its steering system revealed a dangerous weakness, one that pushed major corporations to ban it outright. The result? A truck remembered today for its vintage charm, but known in its time as a fleet liability. A reminder that in the world of work trucks, form can never outweigh function, and that one weak component can doom an entire model.
Number 8. The 1957 Willys FC150 forward control pickup. A truck that was legally drivable, yet effectively blacklisted for its life-threatening design. In the mid-1950s, Willys Motors was searching for a niche in the competitive pickup market. Competitors like Ford and Chevrolet dominated standard cab designs, so Willys pursued innovation. The forward control concept moved the cab directly over the front axle, a layout intended to maximize cargo bed length without increasing overall vehicle length, provide a tight turning radius for urban delivery, improve visibility over the hood. The resulting truck looked like a miniature commercial cabover, a unique and futuristic design in its time. While innovative, the FC150 had a critical problem. The driver's position placed their body in direct danger in the event of a collision. Key design issues included driver directly over the front axle. The wheels and suspension sat inches beneath the driver's feet. Any frontal impact transmitted force directly upward. Minimal crumple zones. The cab structure lacked sufficient reinforcement. Low-speed collisions could fold the cab like a cardboard box. Exposed legs. In crashes, the driver's legs were the first contact points with metal, suspension, or engine components. Short front end. Unlike conventional pickups, there was almost no buffer between the driver and a frontal impact. Essentially, any moderate collision, 25 to 30 miles per hour, could seriously injure the driver or passenger even when the truck's body remained intact. Historical reports and lawsuits from the late 1950s documented incidents where delivery drivers' legs were trapped or crushed during minor crashes. The cab folding caused the steering column to penetrate the driver compartment. Injuries occurred during routine city deliveries or tight parking maneuvers. Insurance claims and legal settlements started to mount. While exact nationwide fatality numbers are scarce, several states officially discouraged FC150 fleet use, citing high risk of crush injuries. Fleet managers, especially in delivery and municipal services, began treating the truck as an insurance liability rather than a tool, refusing to buy it for regular service. Facing lawsuits and bad publicity, Willys did not issue a public recall. Instead, they quietly limited production and sales of the FC150, restricted fleet deliveries to select clients willing to assume liability, altered marketing materials to downplay the truck's forward control design. Many dealers stopped actively promoting the FC150, knowing that safety regulators and fleet managers were wary. Across the country, the FC150 gained an unofficial nickname among truckers and mechanics, the Legs Crusher. It was legally drivable, but practically banned in most urban and commercial fleet circles. The tragedy of the 1957 Willys FC150 is a lesson in engineering hubris. Innovation without safety. Moving the cab forward improved cargo capacity but ignored the human cost. Lack of crash protection. No crumple zones, reinforced frame rails, or energy-absorbing structures. Misaligned risk assessment. Willys underestimated the consequences of minor accidents in urban environments. Regulatory oversight lag. At the time, federal vehicle crash standards were minimal, allowing such risky designs to reach production. Simply put, the FC150 worked on paper but killed in practice. Today, the FC150 is an interesting vintage collectible, admired for its forward control design and compact maneuverability. However, restorers know it's not a modern driver-safe truck. Crash testing and modern traffic conditions make it impractical for everyday use. Historical enthusiasts regard it as a warning about the perils of radical design without safety foresight. The FC150 remains a cautionary tale, a truck that was legally drivable but practically banned by fleets, regulators, and insurers for crushing its drivers. Number 7. The 1985 Chevrolet S10 Diesel, a vehicle legally sold, widely advertised, and enthusiastically embraced by fuel-conscious buyers, but ultimately banned by insurers due to catastrophic reliability and fire hazards. The early 1980s were marked by rising fuel prices, increasing interest in fuel-efficient trucks and cars, a surge in diesel technology adoption, largely in Europe and Japan. Chevrolet sought to compete with Volkswagen, Peugeot, and Isuzu diesels by offering a diesel variant of its popular S10 compact pickup. Key features of the 1985 S10 Diesel included a 2.2-liter Isuzu four-cylinder diesel engine, 55 to 65 horsepower, modest torque for highway driving. Intended for fleet buyers and budget-conscious consumers, a promise of superior fuel economy over gasoline S10s. At first glance, it seemed like a perfect fit, small, efficient, and modern. The reality, however, was starkly different. The S10 Diesel suffered from fundamental mechanical flaws stemming from its Isuzu-sourced engine. A. Engine mount failures. Poorly designed and undersized mounts. Trucks shaking violently under load. Vibration accelerating component fatigue. Engines moving in the bay, stressing hoses and belts. B. Fuel line cracks. Constant vibration cracked brittle fuel lines. Leaks allowed diesel fuel to drip onto hot exhaust components. Exposure to high temperatures created a severe fire hazard. C. Oil leaks. Poor sealing and vibration led to oil dumping onto exhaust manifolds. Fires were reported in both urban traffic and rural road conditions. Even minor leaks could escalate into catastrophic engine fires. D. Transmission and drivetrain strain. Diesel torque was underpowered for the truck's weight. Hard use caused early transmission wear. Vibration and engine movement compounded drivetrain failures. In short, the truck literally shook itself apart, turning what should have been an efficient workhorse into a rolling hazard. Reports from the mid-1980s documented engine fires starting on idle or highway operation, trucks abandoned on roads due to catastrophic engine failure, minor accidents becoming major fires because leaked oil and fuel ignited. Fleet managers, small business owners, and individuals all faced unexpected repair costs, fire hazards, and downtime. The S10 Diesel's small size and light frame amplified vibration and movement, worsening every mechanical weakness. Insurance companies quickly took note. The combination of engine failures and fire risk made the S10 Diesel a high-liability vehicle. Some insurers refused coverage entirely. Others only offered policies at significantly higher premiums. Insurers quietly blacklisted the truck in many states, effectively limiting its resale market. Even though the truck was legally roadworthy, insurers treated it as uninsurable risk, one of the few modern American pickups to receive such a designation. Fleet buyers were especially affected. Delivery companies and municipal fleets could not insure these trucks. Warranty claims did little to mitigate insurance refusals. Chevrolet's reputation suffered, especially in the diesel segment. The 1985 S10 Diesel's failure was not due to bad diesel technology. It was a mismatch between engine and application. Isuzu's 2.2-liter diesel was designed for lightweight vehicles in Japan, not American compact pickups with heavier frames. Mounting, vibration damping, and fuel system design were inadequate for U.S. use. The result was a truck that looked viable, but was inherently unstable under normal driving conditions. Today, the 1985 S10 Diesel is largely forgotten. However, diesel enthusiasts recognize it as a rare, if mechanically compromised, piece of history. Restoration requires complete engine mounts, fuel lines, and fire safety upgrades. Insurance restrictions from the 1980s are part of its notoriety. It stands as a cautionary tale. Sourcing a foreign engine without adapting it for American conditions can turn a fuel-saving truck into a fire hazard. The 1985 Chevrolet S10 Diesel is a textbook case of how a good idea can fail catastrophically due to poor engineering adaptation. Designed to save fuel, it instead wasted money on repairs and created safety hazards. Shaking engines, cracked fuel lines, and oil-fed fires made insurers refuse coverage. Fleet and individual buyers learned a harsh lesson. Legally drivable does not mean safe or insurable. In the annals of American pickup history, the S10 Diesel remains the truck insurers didn't want to touch, a cautionary example of engineering, liability, and the harsh realities of the 1980s diesel craze.
Number 6. The 1959 Ford Ranchero, the Fairlane-based pickup coupe that was legally roadworthy but banned from fleet purchases due to catastrophic structural weaknesses. In 1957, Ford introduced the Ranchero, aiming to capture a market niche. Consumers wanted the comfort of a car with the utility of a pickup. The original Ranchero was based on the full-sized Ford platform. The design allowed for light hauling while offering car-like handling. By 1959, Ford made a bold and risky change. The Ranchero was now based on the 1959 Ford Fairlane. This model featured unitized construction, or unibody, rather than a traditional body-on-frame design. The idea was to reduce weight and improve handling, while still offering a cargo bed. It was a forward-looking concept, but the execution was catastrophically flawed. Unlike traditional trucks, which rely on a separate ladder frame to bear cargo weight, the 1959 Ranchero's unibody design combined the cab and bed into a single structural shell. Key issues emerged immediately. Unibody rigidity was insufficient to handle typical pickup loads. Torsional stress caused twisting when carrying even modest cargo. Bed-to-body connections flexed excessively, leading to metal fatigue. Suspension and floor pan mounts were stressed beyond design limits. In practice, this meant hauling basic equipment, lumber, small machinery, or farm tools could cause structural collapse. Floors buckled, bed walls cracked, and in severe cases, the entire rear section twisted. Vehicle handling became unpredictable as the unibody flexed, increasing risk on highways. Essentially, the truck was a car pretending to be a pickup with disastrous consequences. The Ranchero's failures were quickly noticed by fleet operators, especially state and municipal buyers. Early units were delivered to state highway departments for testing and light-duty service. Trucks collapsed under basic equipment loads, including tools, small machinery, and maintenance gear. Engineers found cracks along the rear floor and frame rails even after minimal use. Resulting consequences: state highway departments refused to purchase additional units. Fleet operators feared liability and replacement costs. Ford faced mounting embarrassment and internal scrutiny. The combination of structural instability and high-profile fleet rejections made the Ranchero infamous almost overnight. To avoid further embarrassment, Ford ended production of the Fairlane-based Ranchero early in 1959. Publicly, the move was framed as a production adjustment.
Internally, it was a quiet acknowledgement of design failure. No widespread recalls were issued, but the lesson was clear: the unibody design was incompatible with pickup loads at that time. Ford returned to a more robust chassis in later Ranchero models, combining car comfort with pickup utility without repeating the structural mistakes. The failure came from a mismatch of design ambition and real-world physics. Unibody innovation was ahead of its time for light-duty hauling. Load paths were insufficiently reinforced, making twisting inevitable. Fleet testing revealed flaws that consumers alone might not have encountered immediately. Marketing prioritized style over function, creating a car-truck hybrid that failed its utilitarian promises. The lesson: structural integrity cannot be sacrificed for aesthetics or novelty, especially when the vehicle is intended to haul. Today, the 1959 Ford Ranchero is a collector curiosity, admired for its unique Fairlane styling and two-in-one car-truck concept, infamous among enthusiasts for its structural quirks. Restoration often involves reinforcing the unibody and bed mounts to safely carry cargo. The 1959 Ford Ranchero serves as a historical example of a legally roadworthy vehicle being practically banned from fleets due to its engineering limitations. The 1959 Ford Ranchero demonstrates a crucial lesson in automotive design. Innovation and style must be balanced with structural integrity and functional reliability. A unibody car cannot be expected to perform like a traditional pickup without proper reinforcement. Ford's early termination of the model year reflected a tacit admission: the Fairlane-based Ranchero was too fragile for real-world work. It remains a symbol of both creative ambition and costly miscalculation, a classic car that was legally drivable but effectively blacklisted by fleets and state buyers. Number 5. The 1972 Dodge D-Series Adventurer SE440, a pickup that combined muscle car ambition with a light-duty truck frame, ended up banned by police agencies. The early 1970s were the height of the American muscle car era. Big block V8s were celebrated for their raw power and acceleration. Manufacturers sought to capitalize on this trend in every segment, even pickups. Dodge's idea was ambitious: take the D-Series pickup, a light-duty truck, stuff a 440 cubic inch Magnum V8 under the hood. Marketed as the Adventurer SE, a high-performance, stylish pickup. On paper, it promised 375 to 390 horsepower, gross ratings, aggressive styling with stripes and badging, a truck that could outrun almost anything on the road, but the result was far less controllable than advertised. The D-Series chassis was designed for light-duty hauling and general-purpose work. It was not engineered for high horsepower or high-speed performance. Key issues included: A. Uncontrollable wheel spin. The rear-wheel drive D-Series had relatively narrow tires and a light rear end. The 440 Magnum produced torque far exceeding rear traction. Wheel spin was severe, especially on wet or uneven surfaces. Acceleration was erratic, even at moderate speeds. B. Braking deficiencies. Brakes were standard drum units, designed for normal pickup weight and speed. The 440-powered Adventurer SE often required double the stopping distance. High-speed stops caused fading and overheating, especially with emergency braking. C. High-speed instability. Light frame plus high power equals poor handling. Body roll and rear-end lift made cornering treacherous. Suspension was not reinforced for muscle car acceleration forces. Trucks would fishtail under aggressive throttle application. In short, the Adventurer SE440 could accelerate like a muscle car, but stop and handle like a standard pickup, a dangerous combination. In 1972, several police agencies tested the Adventurer SE440 for potential pursuit use. Agencies were seeking fast, durable pursuit vehicles capable of intercepting muscle cars. Testing revealed wheel spin on initial takeoff, even in dry conditions. High-speed emergency maneuvers caused loss of control and near-crash scenarios. Braking at highway speeds often resulted in skid or overrun. After repeated accidents during controlled testing, the response was clear. This truck is unsuitable for police work. Dodge's Adventurer SE440 was officially banned from pursuit programs, a rare fate for a factory muscle vehicle. The failure was a direct result of mismatched engineering. Power mismatch. 440 Magnum was too much for a light truck frame. Traction and handling limitations. Rear tires and suspension couldn't manage torque. Braking system inadequacy. Standard drum brakes could not cope with muscle-level acceleration. Misunderstood use case. Muscle car pickup was marketed as high performance but lacked safety and control for real-world conditions. The Adventurer SE440 was essentially a muscle car in pickup clothing, without the engineering safeguards muscle cars had in sedan or coupe form. Today, the 1972 Dodge D-Series Adventurer SE440 is a rare collector's item among muscle truck enthusiasts. It's admired for its extreme combination of power and pickup utility, infamous for its dangerous high-speed handling and police ban. Restorers and enthusiasts are well aware. Modern tires and brakes are essential for safe operation. Driving it aggressively requires experience. Mistakes can be catastrophic. It remains a vivid example of how raw horsepower without proper engineering can make a vehicle unsafe, even if it's legally roadworthy. The 1972 Dodge D-Series Adventurer SE440 is a classic lesson in automotive hubris. It attempted to combine muscle car performance with pickup practicality. The light-duty chassis and insufficient brakes made it too dangerous for law enforcement or high-speed use. Police agencies' ban demonstrated that engine power alone does not make a vehicle effective or safe. In automotive history, the Adventurer SE440 stands as a warning. Overpowered engineering without corresponding safety measures can turn a dream machine into a liability. Number 4. The 1950 Studebaker 2R10, a light-duty pickup plagued by rear suspension failures and dangerous handling, which earned the ire of rural mail carriers, contractors, and fleet operators. In 1949, Studebaker introduced the 2R series, an all-new light-duty trucks intended to compete with Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge. The 2R10 was the half-ton version, marketed as a durable, economical pickup. Designed for both urban and rural use, including deliveries, farm work, and municipal services. It featured modern styling with a rounded cab, integrated fenders, and updated chassis. Initially, it appeared to be a promising competitor in a crowded post-war truck market. The 2R10's main issue stemmed from its rear leaf spring suspension. Springs were under-engineered for payload. The rear axle was lightweight and prone to twisting. Moderately loaded trucks, just 500 to 700 pounds in the bed, experienced excessive sag and deflection. This led to serious operational problems: rear suspension collapse under normal route loads, oversteer tendencies, especially on narrow rural roads, unstable handling on inclines and curves, increased risk of axle failure under repetitive stress. Essentially, the 2R10 could not safely carry the modest cargo expected by rural carriers or contractors. The Studebaker 2R10 was deployed in rural and municipal fleets. Rural mail carriers relied on half-ton pickups for daily delivery routes. Contractors used them for light equipment and supplies. Reports from 1950 to 1952 documented trucks sagging visibly when loaded, making steering unpredictable. rear axles braking or misaligning after routine driving, several accidents caused by oversteer or sudden rear suspension failure, some resulting in minor injuries or property damage. The consensus among operators was clear. The 2R10 was unsafe for regular service, especially on the winding, unpaved roads typical of rural routes. Unlike a formal recall, the response was informal but effective. Rural mail carriers refused to purchase or continue using the 2R10. Contractors switched to Ford F-Series or Chevrolet 3100 pickups, which had more robust rear suspension. Word of mouth within delivery and rural service communities quickly spread warnings. Effectively, the Studebaker 2R10 was banned in practice even though it remained legally roadworthy and available to private buyers. Studebaker's reputation among fleet operators suffered, particularly in the half-ton segment. The failure can be traced to several engineering decisions. Lightweight rear axle designed for efficiency, not durability. Insufficiently rated leaf springs unable to handle typical payloads. Chassis geometry that amplified instability when loaded. Limited real-world testing with fleets under normal operating conditions. Studebaker's attempt to produce a stylish, economical half-ton pickup compromised functional safety, particularly for users who relied on reliable hauling. Today, the 1950 Studebaker 2R10 is remembered primarily as a classic collectible with unique post-war styling. An example of a legal truck that was practically banned from fleet use. A lesson in engineering design to match operational use, particularly regarding payload and suspension integrity. Collectors and restorers often reinforce the rear suspension and upgrade axles to make them safe for modern driving, acknowledging the original design flaw. The 1950 Studebaker 2R10 demonstrates an essential lesson in automotive engineering. Style and novelty cannot replace structural integrity. Light-duty pickups must be designed to safely carry expected loads. Even when legally drivable, vehicles that fail in real-world use are quietly blacklisted by those who depend on them. For rural mail carriers and contractors in the early 1950s, the 2R10 was a truck to avoid, a reminder that innovation without functional reliability can have serious practical consequences. Number 3. The 1953 International Harvester R120, a robust-looking work truck that was legally drivable but banned from many work sites due to critical steering failures. In the early 1950s, International Harvester, IH, dominated the industrial and agricultural truck market. The R-Series, introduced in 1953, replaced older K and L-Series trucks. The R120 was a medium-duty, half-ton to three-quarter-ton chassis designed for construction, logging, and mining applications. IH marketed it as a durable, go-anywhere workhorse capable of handling rough terrain and heavy loads. On paper, the R120 seemed ideal for industrial operators, rugged, reliable, and American-made. The fatal flaw in the R120 lay in its front axle steering system, specifically the kingpins. Kingpins are pivot points allowing the front wheels to turn. In the R120, the kingpins were undersized and inadequately lubricated. Constant vibration from heavy loads or rough terrain caused rapid wear and eventual seizure. Steering could lock partially or completely, especially under load. This was not a slow failure. It was unpredictable and dangerous. Drivers could lose steering control without warning, often in hazardous conditions. The R120's design made it particularly deadly in high-risk environments. Logging trails, narrow, uneven paths with drop-offs and tight corners, mining sites, rough roads, heavy machinery, and cargo loads. Trucks with seized kingpins would veer suddenly, causing rollovers or collisions with obstacles. Multiple reports documented fatalities, workers crushed between the truck and terrain features or ejected during steering lockups. Industrial operators quickly realized that despite its rugged appearance, the R120 was unsafe for real-world work conditions. As accidents mounted, logging and mining companies banned the R120 from job sites. Fleet managers refused delivery or utility units for critical industrial tasks. IH quietly offered replacement components and retrofits, but trust was lost. The truck gained the reputation among workers as the seize and swerve. Although legally roadworthy, the R120 became effectively blacklisted in professional high-risk applications, limiting its commercial viability. The R120's failures stemmed from several engineering miscalculations. Kingpin undersizing. They could not handle repeated stress or heavy terrain. Insufficient lubrication points. Maintenance alone could not prevent seizing. Chassis weight versus steering design. Heavy industrial loads amplified stress on the front axle. High-risk operating environments ignored. The truck was intended for off-road work, but design testing failed to simulate real conditions. The result? A truck that looked industrially robust, but was a steering nightmare in practice. Today, the 1953 International Harvester R120 is remembered for its classic mid-century IH styling, its industrial ambition, trying to combine durability with versatility, and its deadly flaw, which limited its use in the very environments it was designed for. Modern restorers often upgrade front axles and kingpins to make the truck safe for display or light driving, acknowledging that the original components were inadequate. The 1953 International Harvester R120 illustrates a critical lesson in industrial vehicle design. Appearance and advertised capability do not equal safety. Key mechanical components must withstand real-world operational stresses. Legal roadworthiness does not protect workers from catastrophic design flaws. For logging and mining companies in the 1950s, the R120 was more than a liability. It was a dangerous machine that cost lives, and worksite bans reflected the harsh consequences of engineering misjudgment. Number 2. The 1957 Dodge Sweptside, Chrysler's answer to the Chevrolet Cameo, designed to combine flashy styling with pickup utility, and ended up unsafe for towing at any meaningful speed. In 1957, Dodge introduced the Sweptside to capitalize on the post-war car-truck crossover trend. Modeled after Dodge's full-size passenger cars, including tail fins, chrome trim, and luxury interior touches, targeted at suburban buyers who wanted a pickup with style and flair, intended to compete with Chevrolet's Cameo Carrier. Unlike traditional pickups, the Sweptside prioritized visual impact over functional hauling or towing capability. Tail fins extended well beyond the bed. Chrome panels and luxury touches increased overall weight and changed airflow. Rear overhangs were long and visually dramatic. The Sweptside's tail fins and rear design created severe aerodynamic disturbances when paired with trailers or campers. A. High-speed jackknifing. Tail fins acted as vertical rudders, catching crosswinds and destabilizing trailers. Vehicles towing standard 1 to 2 ton trailers experienced sudden sway and jackknifing at highway speeds. Minor gusts could create loss of trailer control within seconds, often causing near accidents. B. Weight distribution issues. The Sweptside had a long rear overhang, shifting the center of mass backward. Standard trailer hitches became ineffective, amplifying trailer sway. Even lightly loaded trailers were difficult to keep aligned at 50+ miles per hour. C. Steering and handling complications. Rear aerodynamic forces translated into the cab, causing unpredictable steering corrections. Drivers had minimal time to react to trailer sway. Braking while towing became especially risky, often amplifying jackknife tendencies. In short, the Sweptside could look glamorous in a driveway, but on the open road towing a trailer, it was dangerous and uncontrollable. Towing companies, rental shops, and fleet operators quickly recognized the hazard. Reports surfaced of high-speed jackknifing during test drives and early customer use. Rental and towing companies refused to attach trailers or campers to Sweptsides. Some insurers warned owners against towing due to liability exposure. Dodge quietly acknowledged the limitations by not marketing the truck for towing, effectively banning it in practice. Even though the Sweptside was legally roadworthy, its design precluded safe towing, a critical function for many pickup owners. The Sweptside's failure was a classic case of style over substance. Aerodynamics ignored. Tail fins created instability at speed, especially when paired with trailers. Weight and balance mismanagement. Rear overhangs shifted the center of gravity, amplifying sway. Functional mismatch. Marketed as a luxury pickup, it lacked engineering for practical hauling or towing. Insufficient testing. Dodge underestimated trailer interactions and crosswind effects. In essence, the Sweptside was a road-going sculpture, not a workhorse pickup. Today, the 1957 Dodge Sweptside is remembered as a collector's gem for its dramatic tail fins and 1950s flair. A cautionary tale in aerodynamic and functional design. A vehicle impossible to use for conventional towing without extreme risk. Modern enthusiasts sometimes fit lightweight display trailers for shows, but using it for real towing remains ill-advised. The 1957 Dodge Sweptside exemplifies the perils of prioritizing appearance over engineering function. Tail fins and styling cues made the truck stand out, but created life-threatening instability when towing. Towing companies, trailer rental shops, and insurers effectively banned it from practical use. It stands as a historical lesson. No matter how much chrome or flair can substitute for proper weight distribution and aerodynamics. The Sweptside remains a striking reminder that in automotive design, beauty without function can become a liability.
Number 1. The 1984 Dodge Ram 150 Crew Cab Diesel, a small American pickup equipped with a Mitsubishi-sourced diesel engine that proved dangerously unreliable in fire department service. The early 1980s were a transitional period for light-duty trucks. Rising fuel costs and diesel technology adoption encouraged automakers to offer diesel variants. Diesel engines promised fuel efficiency and torque, ideal for heavy payloads or towing. Dodge sought to compete with Ford, Chevrolet, and Japanese imports by offering small diesel pickups. The 1984 Dodge Ram 150 Crew Cab Diesel featured a 2.3-liter Mitsubishi inline-4 diesel engine, crew cab configuration for up to 6 passengers, intended for fleet and personal use with moderate towing and payload capabilities. On paper, it seemed perfect for light-duty fleet applications, including emergency services. The critical flaw in the Ram 150 diesel lay in engine cooling and idling behavior. A. Emergency vehicle duty cycle. Fire department pickups often idle for long periods at stations or during emergency standby. Idling allows crews to maintain pumps, radios, lights, and climate control systems. B. Diesel engine design limitations. The Mitsubishi-sourced diesel was air-cooled insufficiently at low RPMs. Radiators and cooling fans were designed for steady driving, not prolonged idling.
In fire department use, engines overheated rapidly when idling for even 15 to 20 minutes. C. Operational consequences. Overheating caused engine damage, seized components, and coolant loss. Emergency readiness was compromised. Trucks could not reliably depart in a crisis. Maintenance costs escalated dramatically as engines required early overhauls or replacements. Several fire departments discovered the Ram 150 diesel's limitations firsthand. Units assigned to emergency response overheated during station idling. Trucks became unreliable for emergency dispatch, a critical failure in fleet safety standards. Departments returned units to dealers, refusing to place them on active roster. Dodge quietly discontinued promotion of diesel crew cabs for emergency use. Effectively, the model was banned from fire department service, a rare but serious outcome for a new pickup. The Ram 150's failure stemmed from a combination of design mismatch and fleet application oversight. Engine sourced from Mitsubishi, designed for light-duty, non-idling operations. Cooling system inadequacy. A small radiator and weak airflow could not dissipate heat at idle. Fleet duty oversight. Dodge did not account for prolonged stationary engine use, common in emergency vehicles. Crew cab weight. Additional passengers and equipment further stressed the small diesel engine. The result, a legally drivable truck unsuitable for real-world emergency fleet requirements. Today, the 1984 Dodge Ram 150 Crew Cab Diesel is remembered primarily as a cautionary example of mismatched powertrain and duty cycle, a rare case where fleet-specific requirements revealed a hidden design flaw, a lesson that legal roadworthiness does not guarantee suitability for specialized operations. Modern restorers sometimes retrofit larger radiators, electric auxiliary cooling fans, modern fuel management systems, but original units remain not recommended for idling-intensive service. The 1984 Dodge Ram 150 Crew Cab Diesel demonstrates an important lesson in automotive engineering and fleet management. Vehicles intended for specialized use, such as fire or emergency service, must be engineered for real operational conditions, not just road legality. Ignoring duty cycle requirements can render a truck unusable and unsafe, even if it meets standard safety and emissions regulations. Fire department's decision to ban the model and return it to dealers reflects the severity of the problem. In automotive history, the Ram 150 Crew Cab Diesel stands as a warning. Small diesels are not automatically suitable for heavy-duty or emergency idle applications.